Hey guys, welcome to this new episode of the Aranzamendi podcast. We're going to be discussing federal prosecutor Glenn Kirschner and law professor Dan Maurer destroying Pete Hegseth. In this new segment that I'm bringing to you, we have a great video. It's going to be short, so I'm going to ask you to make sure you stay and stick until the end. So a former JAGs Working Group member, which is Glenn Kirschner, he used to be a military law professor, a resource, and now Professor Dan Maurer, so also happens to be a military veteran and a military law professor and a constitutional law professor. Great experts, great resources. They're joining right now on this show to dismantle Pete Hegseth's reported, kill them all order that led to the Caribbean survivor killings, characterizing it as a potential war crime. The legal analysis delves into how the order violates domestic law, international law, and the law of war, specifically addressing the doctrine of command responsibility and the catastrophic failure within the chain of command. Maurer and Kirschner explore potential accountability measures, which could include court-martial proceedings for those who carried out or failed to prevent the unlawful order under the Uniform Code of Military Justice, UCMJ, as well as possible impeachment inquiry targeting the high-ranking officials who enabled the systemic failure. So basically, that's going to be what we're going to be presenting in this video. So I hope you stick till the end. Enjoy this great conversation by these two professionals. It's highly devastating for Pete Hegseth. And then after the video, we're going to wrap it up with some new reporting that just came out about Pete Hegseth and an inspector general and the Signalgate, scandal. So we'll get into that in a second. But let's go first to the law professors and the Caribbean scandal, okay?
Law professor, retired Army Lieutenant Colonel, retiring from the U.S. Army JAG Corps. He taught constitutional law and criminal law at West Point. He also taught at the Army's JAG School on the campus of the University of Virginia. He has become a frequent flyer here, unfortunately, talking about the continued abuses of Donald Trump, Pete Hegseth, and the folks who are deciding to obey what appear to be clearly, patently unlawful orders. So first of all, happy holiday weekend and welcome back, Dan. I'm so happy that you're back with us.
Thank you, Glenn. Happy post-Thanksgiving to everybody.
I want to start this with just reading a little bit from the new Washington Post reporting about the latest travesty. The headline is Hegseth order on first Caribbean boat strike. Officials say kill them all. And just a little bit of the reporting includes Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth gave a spoken directive, according to two people with direct knowledge of the operation. Quote, the order was to kill everybody, close quote, one of them said. A missile screamed off the Trinidad coast, striking the vehicle and igniting a blaze from bow to stern. For minutes, commanders watched the boat burning on a live drone feed. As the smoke cleared, they got a jolt. Two survivors were clinging to the smoldering wreck. The Special Operations Commander overseeing the September 2 attack, the opening salvo in the Trump administration's war on suspected drug traffickers in the Western Hemisphere, ordered a second strike to comply with Hegseth's instructions. Two people familiar with the matter said, and the two men were blown apart in the water. Now, Dan, I saw you post something on LinkedIn, and you said, I'm not going to read much of it, but quote, if the reporting here is accurate, I'm disgusted, appalled, and angry. Any order to execute these boat strikes on narco-terrorists is an unlawful order that should have been rejected by the chain of command, and there is no way to wash clean the taint of illegality that defines an order to, quote, kill everyone, including the survivors of the first strike clinging to the side of the sinking boat. I think this is so appalling, and it turns our stomachs. But can you talk a little bit about the illegality of what is being reported in this Washington Post article?
Yeah, I mean, aside from it being completely immoral and base to do that to survivors of a strike, there's a reason why it's illegal under international law, because it's viewed as beyond the pale. So the first thing to note is that under...
Did you know that you can create insane AI videos of yourself with Nano Banana and Veed Fabric?
Well-known international law that goes back not just modern internet, customary international law directing how you use force abroad says you cannot give an order for no quarter, take no survivors. That's not lawful under any interpretation of the law of armed conflict, and it hasn't been for a very long time. I mean, this predates the revolution, and it's certainly embedded in the Hague regulations and in the Geneva Conventions that we have signed as treaties and make part of our law. And it's something that we train our service members as one of the basic foundational principles of all of our. You don't kill prisoners. You don't kill what are called hors de combat, or out of the fight. French for out of the fight. That includes POWs, includes wounded and sick, and it includes the shipwrecked. It includes survivors. And there are special protections that you give to shipwrecked crews, whether you're fighting a law enforcement campaign or you're fighting an armed conflict. When there are survivors in the sea, you actually have a duty to go rescue them. Not just don't kill them, but to also rescue them. That's an affirmative obligation to save their life, not to take their life. It's easy to kill them. Clearly we did that. But I don't understand what really bothered at a core level is how that order, that kill everyone order, was interpreted by a 3-star admiral at the time. That admiral commanding JSOC is now the commander 4-star of Special Operations Command, a former Navy SEAL. Well, I guess you're always a Navy SEAL. Former commander of SEAL Team 6 said, launch the second missile because those two shipwrecked crew members might get picked up by their fellow narco-terrorists and continue trafficking drugs. 1, highly unlikely. 2, that doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. And he should have known that. He absolutely should have known that. Whether there was a JAG in the room or not, that's basic. That's like, how do you shoot your weapon basic? And that, to me, is an impeachable offense for Hegseth. It is a court-martialable offense for the admiral. And I take no joy in saying that as a former retired officer to wow. Say that there's any blame here on the military, but there is. They followed a patently lawful order to kill those drug runners, assuming they're drug runners, even if they're the worst drug runners in the world, even if they're armed. If they're not shooting at the U.S. forces at the time, they are not targetable. In fact, they had to be saved, picked up and rescued, not just blown to pieces, as the reporting indicates. It is so far illegal that I cannot understand how someone that senior could have allowed that to happen. And all down the chain of command. And it might have been the 3-star to a drone operator or someone firing a missile from a plane. Who knows? It might have been 2 steps, but both of those steps should have been a firm rejection. No, we're not going to kill them. Bottom line. And they should have put their stars on the table. You want to fire me for that? Fine, but I'm not doing that. That's what should have happened, and that's what didn't happen. And who knows? Maybe it happened multiple times. That was just the first strike. It may have happened every other time since then. So clearly a massively important breaking story. Incredibly bad news for those who thought that, like me, who thought that the military would ultimately do the right thing in the face of a clearly, manifestly, patently unlawful order, that they would reject it. Because that's what they're trained to do. And it's a professional norm, it's a professional obligation, and it's not hard to spot the blatantly, patently unlawful orders. And this was one of those. And so they should have rejected it.
Wow, guys, that's a devastating take by Glenn Kirschner, ex-federal prosecutor, ex-JAG, also, resource military lawyer, Glenn Kirschner. Now he's an ex-federal prosecutor with over 30 years of experience. And then the one talking, ending the video, that's Professor Dan Maurer. Also, like Glenn presented him, also a military professor, military law, JAG, resource lawyer, and constitutional professor. So, if somebody knows what he is talking about when it comes to the Pete Hegseth scandal right now with the Caribbean, the September 2nd killings of survivors, that this is a guy that you should pay attention to. So that's awful. It's a devastating take. They will face accountability. A bunch of Republicans right now, more than 4 or 5, if not 6 already, in Congress, Republicans are joining forces with Democrats demanding a deep investigation into the whole scandal about this Caribbean war crimes as they are being categorized as of now. One thing that he mentioned, this is kind of like bad news for all of those, all of us who thought that some people would do the right thing in these critical situations. And this is why now, more than ever, the video that these veteran Democrats put out just, like a week and a half ago when Donald Trump went bonkers and started asking for them, to face the death penalty. Remember, Donald Trump was asking for Democrats to be killed over the fact that they made a video asking military troops, our whole military, to please make sure that they uphold the Constitution, that they obey only lawful orders and disobey, which is, their oath. They swear to protect and, defend and uphold the Constitution. At the same time, they also make a commitment to disobey unconstitutional orders. You can't do both at the same time. You're either for or against the Constitution. You're either for or against the rule of law. It's just basic. It's just basic logic, right? So that's what the Democrats put out. These couple of, 5 or 6 Democrats, veterans. They are veterans. This is why they made this. And look how timely that, well, probably maybe a little bit late because the video came out just, a week and a half ago or so. But this event of the Caribbean killings of, survivors happened on September 2nd. So maybe they should have put out this video even way sooner, reminding our troops and, our military officials and generals and so on that please, they should uphold the Constitution. As much as Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump, they want to intimidate, they want to create this atmosphere of intimidation, and that, if you dare, they were firing people left and right in the military too. They want to create that intimidation, like atmosphere. If you dare to challenge us, we're definitely going to take you to court. We're going to process you. We're going to prosecute you. We're going to fire you. We're going to destroy you. We're going to dox you so that then our, crazies, extreme MAGA crazies start chasing you, hunting you down, and, threatening to kill you and so on. So we know a lot of people are afraid, not only in the military, but we also saw there's reporting that all these consuls, people calling different organizations that help military officials when it comes to difficult decisions, that they don't know something is legal or not, constitutional or not, they can call. There's different organizations and resources to do that, to clarify, to get the help and the information they need. Those calls have spiked. Apparently, a lot of people are calling, a lot of officials calling, saying, hey, this is what they're demanding. This is what they're asking me to do. They're forcing these military people now participating in the Caribbean to sign NDA agreements, non-disclosure agreements. So obviously that's happening there. We have Congress members also afraid. Recently, Brian Tyler Cohen was interviewing, I think he was interviewing Hakeem Jeffries. And Brian asked him, do any of these Republicans at any moment behind, closed doors tell you, behind the scenes, do they tell you that they really want to get some of these things, corrected? Or do they know that things are just wrong with the Trump administration and some of these aspects that they were discussing? And I believe it was Jeffries. But anyway, whoever it was a Democrat congressperson. And he told Brian, you know what? I was literally having a conversation with a Republican just a couple of days ago. And he was telling me that he wanted to vote against Donald Trump. I don't remember if it was on the Epstein files or something else. But this Republican congressperson wanted to vote against Trump. And he told his wife at home, hey, I'm thinking, this is a big deal. Think of it this way. This should be just, a normal day for any congressperson in any world, any administration other than Donald Trump's administration, right? Any congressperson, any Democrat voted against, Obama or Biden, no big deal. Yeah, you're not supporting your party, whatever. It would just end and die there, right there. No doxing, no threats, no pressure, no, we're going to primary you, no bullshit, right? And that's not what happens here. For any Republican in Congress to say, I'm going to vote against Donald Trump, it's a big deal. It's a major decision. So anyway, this this guy is telling Brian, I'm pretty sure it was Hakeem Jeffries. But anyway, I'm sorry, this was like 3-4 weeks ago, and we deal with so many episodes. If you're not aware, let me tell you why I'm telling you that. I do work with Brian Tyler Cohen on his Spanish channel, so I have to translate and dub, make sure, supervise the whole production of all the content that he wants to publish right on the Spanish channel. So I'm very aware of a lot of the episodes, but it's so many of them that sometimes it's just hard to keep up with every single, person who participated. But anyway, I know the person told him, hey, so this guy, Republican, tells me that he told his wife at home that he was planning on voting against Donald Trump. And his wife lost it. She was panicking. She was panicking because she is aware of the doxing. She is aware of the pressure. She is aware of how they go after any and all Republicans who dare to challenge the dear leader, Donald Trump. So she told him, his wife told this congressperson, Republican, please don't do it. You know what they do to the people who vote against Donald Trump. And it wasn't even about him just losing a primary. It was more about the terror, the panic. What's going to happen to our family? Are they going to dox, me? Are they going to put my information out there, in the public? Our kids' information out there, in the public for people to start, chasing and I don't know, just intimidating us. It sounds scary, guys. It's unfortunate that we're living in a time and era where that is happening, and you seldom, I actually have never heard Donald Trump condemning his followers, saying, I am please asking you, I'm ordering all of you, I'm definitely encouraging you to please stop, never resort to violence, never do this, never intimidate these people. We have to allow people to have different opinions, to debate, to even, defend something that may not be what I want. But, that's democracy. That's the United States. No, Donald Trump will be, no, these people are stupid. If you dare to vote for the Epstein release, you vote with Thomas Massie, you're going to be considered that you're harming the party, that you're doing, what was the word that he used? That you were pretty much kind of like being a traitor to the Republican Party. I don't remember a specific term or word that he used, So that's what we see. It's unfortunate that Republicans feel afraid that in their own party, they just can't express themselves and, defend, stand for whatever they think it's right or correct. I have a comment here from Will to Power. Will to Power, why is it that, any time that we have Republicans, MAGA, Trump followers, they always have some weird-ass name. And you look at this, Will to Power 2158. These people normally don't use a picture. They don't use a profile picture. They don't use a real name. These are the alpha males that are ready, to take on the country, take the country by force. We dominate, this is how we lead, by force. And then they're always so afraid. Look at ICE, right now, ICE agents covering their faces. Oh, we're afraid they're going to attack us. They want to identify us to somehow attack us or whatever. Aren't you the alpha males? Always afraid of using your real names and showing who you are to the world. But anyway, here's the comment from this guy saying, I guess it is okay for the cartels to kill over 250,000. Bullshit argument. We don't care if you want to all of a sudden try to use that they're killing. Of course, there's drug problems. Of course, we have violence problems. Of course, we have a lot of criminals. We have a constitution still. We're a country of laws still. The fact that you want to kill all of a sudden the cartels. And it's funny you mentioned the cartels and you don't mention that Donald Trump just pardoned one of the biggest, contributors to the cartels, who is the ex-president from Honduras, Juan Orlando Hernandez, who trafficked more than 500 fucking tons of cocaine into the United States. Are you going to post about that? Will to Power? Comment about that. If you're all of a sudden so concerned about the cartel killings, which are completely tied to drugs, that's all they care about. This is always about the drugs. Don't you care about the pardon? Donald Trump just pardoned a fucking criminal who happens to be a trafficker who was literally convicted last year after 10 years. An investigation that spanned 3 administrations, the Obama administration, the Trump administration, the Biden administration, and they finally in 2024 convicted him through a jury. A jury convicted him here in the United States and sentenced him to 45 years in prison or so. The guy brought, if you're not aware, 500 tons of cocaine is the equivalent, give or take, of anywhere from 76 to 81 elephants, full-size elephants. Imagine a line of fucking 76 elephants made out of cocaine. That's how much cocaine that motherfucker brought into this country. And he was convicted for it. And our corrupt president, Donald Trump, literally pardoned this guy so that he could influence the elections in El Salvador. Because if they win the elections in El Salvador, he's going to get a shitload of money. There's going to be probably a bunch of corrupt contracts and businesses that are going to benefit probably the Trump administration, maybe golf courses, maybe free planes. Who knows what these people are going to be able to offer. But Donald Trump obviously is highly interested. So don't come to my chat, to my podcast with this bullshit claim of, I guess it's right. Nobody's saying it's fucking right. Because it's funny that you want to say that it's then all of a sudden good that the cartels killed 250,000 people, trying to both sides the issue here. That's a stupid, lame-ass, weak argument. Nobody is campaigning for, let the cartels kill people. If it's illegal to kill people, which is why you're condemning cartels, why would you condemn cartels if it's not because we have laws that say that, criminals shouldn't be killing innocent civilians, right? Good people. We don't want people killing people. Why? Because there's a law. And the law also says that army officials shouldn't kill survivors in the middle of an operation. So, bro, you can't cherry pick. You either are for the rule of law or you are not. Aside from that issue, guys, the last thing I want to comment on is that today they just released a very damning, highly explosive report for Pete Hegseth. Pete Hegseth is having a really bad week, guys. A really bad week. This whole scandal of the Caribbean killings just came out. He is highly implicated. It looks bad. He may be impeached over it. They're starting to investigate. Republicans are joining Democrats in Congress to investigate him. There's no way he's getting around this. This has really caused a lot of outrage. Everybody's mad about it. It seems highly abusive, inhumane, unbecoming of, a Secretary of Defense or Secretary of War, unbecoming of the United States to kill survivors in the middle of a military operation, people who were not in a position to attack anymore. They were just clinging onto a boat, trying to, to survive, to not drown, and to have them go around and do a second strike to kill them is absolutely bonkers. So anyway, look at this. This new reporting just came out, exclusive. There was an inspector general, watchdog, finds Hegseth risk endangering troops by sharing sensitive war plans and signal. Sources say, let me ban this guy named Jack James. He can't offer a constructive, comments, an argument. He can't articulate an argument. He's just too dumb to do so. So he comes to the chat to say, you're a Democrat, F you, whatever. Sorry, Jax, you can go and blow Bubba too. There's reporting Epstein claims that Trump was blowing Bubba. You can go and blow Bubba yourself too if you just can't put 2 and 2 together, if you can't come up with a useful argument, some useful data, something that you want to share for people to be able to think and read and debate. If you're not capable of debating, don't come to debate, bro, to insult. That's just very, very weak on your part, and it reflects your low IQ level. So, too bad for you. So I hope you enjoyed this report. Look at this. Exclusive watchdog finds Hegseth risk endangering troops by sharing sensitive war plans on signal, sources say. So this is not new. We knew that Pete Hegseth has shared battle plans. The new thing is that the Inspector General apparently finished his investigation and he found a bunch of violations. People, check this out. Let me actually increase this so that you can read with me, follow the text. This is highly, highly devastating for Pete Hegseth. I think this is going to be, the last nail on the coffin to literally seal the deal, getting this guy impeached and thrown out. Look at this. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth risk compromising. This report is not fully available, but sources already leaked information to the press. So Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth risk compromising sensitive military information, which could have endangered American troops and mission objectives when he used Signal in March of this year to share highly sensitive attack plans targeting Houthi rebels in Yemen, according to 4 sources familiar with the contents of a classified Inspector General report. So there's a report already. They finished it, and there's some leaks already. Look at this. The repercussions of Hegseth's actions, 2 sources told CNN, are less clear since the IG concluded that the defense secretary has the authority to declassify information, and Hegseth asserted he made an operational decision in the moment to share that information, though there is no documentation of such decision. I don't know if you guys remember this, when this whole scandal came out, because they included a reporter. They were so dumb that they included a reporter from The Atlantic in that chat. They created a group, and this guy, who was it? Mike something, I forgot his last name. The person, the official from the Trump administration who created the group, that actually he was grilled in the Congress hearings about this. He ended up adding a reporter from The Atlantic. So we know what happened. Then Pete Hegseth went there, all fun and games, sharing battle plans with specific types of attacks, when they were going to attack timing and everything, a location, attack timing and everything. And then he was telling the press, oh, nothing was wrong. We did nothing wrong. We did nothing illegal. We didn't share no battle plans. There was no classified information. The information that I had shared was declassified. So he denied that the information was what it was. It was battle plans. It was war plans. And now the Inspector General, after finishing this investigation, the preliminary reporting that we're getting through sources is that he found no evidence of declassifying. The information was originally contained in a document from the Pentagon that was marked as classified at the time that these events were taking place. It makes sense that if you're attacking, people in Yemen today, Houthis in Yemen today, you're not going to declassify that information today before the attack happens. Come on. Pete Hegseth, do you think the people, of this country are dumb? You think Americans are that dumb? I know some MAGA people that follow you and support you are that dumb, but come on, man. You can't fool us with that bullshit. You sent this to your sister, you sent it to your brother, you sent it to your lawyer. Before these attacks happen, you were sharing this information in real time. There's no way in hell. And if it was declassified because you wanted it before the attack happened, that I think that's even worse. If you just said, hey, my bad, I did this, I shouldn't have done it, and just, take responsibility, probably it would still be a disaster, but it would be less of a disaster than trying to fool Congress, to fool the country, to tell the people that you declassified information before you carried out an attack so that you could send it, send it to your wifey and your bro and your lawyer. And hey guys, look at this. I'm such a big shot right now. I'm a big shot, like we say in Spanish. Soy un bichote. Look at me. I'm killing people now. I'm about to kill some people here, some Houthis in Yemen. Look at that. So the guy was fucking bragging about it, sending it to people who had no clearance to receive this classified information. So we knew all of that, but he was telling the press there was nothing wrong, there was nothing illegal, there was no classified information, no battle plans, no war plans. Information was declassified. Everything you see here is declassified. But now the Inspector General, as you can see here in the article, says that he found nothing, no information. Look at this. Hegseth asserted that he made an operational decision in the moment to share that information, though there is no documentation of such a decision. Oh my God. Oh my God. Play the siren. We need a siren here, please, because this is increasing, escalating. Pete Hegseth must be shitting in his pants. And I'm pretty sure there should be some damage control meetings right now in the White House trying to see how we're going to fix this fucking shit. How are we going to deal with this incompetent asshole leading our military who is really causing all these problems? So look at this. An unclassified version of the report is set to be publicly released Thursday. The classified report was sent to Congress on Tuesday night. Messages sent from Hegseth's Signal account to the group chat, the contents of which sources previously confirmed to CNN included material from documents marked classified at the time they were sent, offer specific real-time updates about planned military strikes. They were so specific that one even read, "This is definitely when the first bombs will drop." Oh my God. It remains unclear if Hegseth properly declassified that information before sharing it with other top Trump officials and a reporter, The Atlantic's Jeffrey Goldberg, who was accidentally added to the chat. How dumb you have to be to not only use unvetted, unapproved, insecure third-party app, but to top it off, then you're also including a freaking reporter who had nothing to do with the conversation. And then look at the worst part here. Pete Hegseth refused to sit for an interview with the Inspector General and submitted his version of events in writing, sources tell CNN. That also caught my eye, guys. Why? Because if you remember, these people will fall, on their faces criticizing Hillary Clinton and Benghazi and the emails, but Hillary Clinton had the balls to sit down before Congress for 11 hours. She was questioned for 11 hours. Tell me how many times during the first impeachment, the second impeachment, or any other investigation, or even during his trials, when has Donald Trump sat down for questioning during the trial? He has never sat down to be questioned. He has never spoken to the jury. He has never wanted to talk or agreed to talk under oath. Why? Because Donald Trump lies left and right every single day so much that he knows the moment he is under oath on the stand, he will perjure himself just like that. And now we see the same pattern with Pete Hegseth, the alpha male that has, bigger balls than King Kong. He was so fucking afraid to sit before an inspector general because he doesn't want to perjure himself. So he was willing to just submit some written answers, but not to be questioned, because he knew once you're questioned in real time, they can ask you about this. So what about this? You say here this, but what about this other piece of information? They can start obviously pressing you a little bit, and you may perjure yourself or look really bad in the process. So he is shitting in his pants. He loves going on social media and posting all these great, fantastic, unbelievable explanations of how the far, radical left, communist, Marxist media fake news is blowing things out of proportion because they want to push a narrative, but he doesn't have the balls to sit down before, in front of an inspector general about what may end up costing him his position and be, punishable by impeachment. And in this case, if it's related to the war crimes, who knows? We don't know the level of his involvement yet. So we have to yet see the full report. But what I'm seeing right now makes him look guilty as hell. Why wouldn't you sit down with the Inspector General? When Joe Biden was investigated because of the classified documents that he reported voluntarily, unlike Donald Trump, who was fooling around with NARA, fooling around with the FBI, fooling around with the DOJ, signing an official lawyer certified letter that his lawyer, Christina Bobb, signed. I believe it was Christina Bobb. She signed a letter certifying that there was no additional classified documents in Mar-a-Lago, because they gave authorities, they gave them like 12 boxes, 13 boxes in the beginning of the year around, I believe it was 2023. And they gave them those boxes. 2020, yeah, it was 2023, I believe, like around January or something. They gave them like 11 or 12, maybe 13 boxes, and they said, hey, yeah, we gave you those boxes, and let me sign this letter here. Can you please sign a letter? They asked, according to one of the sources, one of the lawyers in the group that left eventually, they said that the experienced lawyers asked one of the youngest lawyers, which ended up being Christina Bobb, asking her to sign this letter certifying that there was no additional classified documents. But then one of these guys that was talking about it, he said, when I wanted to check, they said, don't check anything. If you're checking, don't check in Donald Trump's office or bedroom. It's like they were limiting where these people, Trump's own lawyers could look for classified documents. So anyway, they certified that there was no additional boxes. And then somebody, apparently a source, told the DOJ, that's not it. That's that they gave you probably 1% of what Donald Trump has here in Mar-a-Lago. There's a bunch, tons of boxes still here, over 10,000 documents they ended up finding. So look at the difference. Then they had to go to a judge, get a search warrant, go into Mar-a-Lago, and they found freaking thousands and thousands of classified documents, highly classified documents. Look at the difference between that. Donald Trump fooling around, telling them, that he had given them, first of all, that he was not going to give anything because it was his, because he had declassified them, because, the Presidential Records Act entitled him to supposedly take whatever he wanted to take, which is not true. Bill Barr disproved that and debated that on his own ex-federal prosecutor, ex-attorney general Bill Barr, said on TV, that's pure bullshit. He can take his own personal notes as the president, but not military, battle plans, not highly sensitive classified information. Of course not. That's not what the law says. The law was precisely created because, Watergate, precisely so that we could prevent presidents from taking classified information, once they left. So Donald Trump obviously is always misrepresenting things. But check the big difference between Joe Biden, that he, just the same way Mike Pence did, them too, Mike Pence and Joe Biden, they found classified documents. They called NARA, FBI, DOJ. They said, please come to our houses, pick up the materials, search around, search for whatever you need to search. Let's make sure that you have everything, and we're fully cooperating, to the point where they both had special counsels assigned to investigate them, Mike Pence and Joe Biden. They both sat down for interviews, fully collaborated, answered every single question. So notice that Hillary Clinton sat before Congress for 11 hours. Joe Biden sat down in front of a special counsel, a Republican, career Republican, Robert Hur, whatever was his name. He sat down. He fully cooperated. Look at Donald Trump, always the alpha male, the strongest guy, the bravest guy out there. But then he's always freaking afraid. He didn't want to cooperate. He didn't want to speak under oath. He didn't want to appear before Congress for any of the, hearings on impeachments. You can see, these people, they sell you this image of being brave and strong and tough, but they're always, snowflakes, little whiny little bitches that are afraid of actually speaking under oath or being questioned when the time comes. When they're facing critical scrutiny, then they fall apart. And this is what we're seeing right now. So it's highly, to me, suspicious that Pete Hegseth refused. This is remember Caroline Levitt, this is the most transparent administration in history. She'll say consistently in the White House, this is the most transparent administration in history. Yeah, we can see that. So transparent that Pete Hegseth is refusing to sit down with an inspector general. So guys, I don't want to get into the whole details. I have to go. I'm doing some other stuff right now for the Brian Tyler Cohen Spanish channel right now. So if you speak Spanish and you want to help us, please go and subscribe. Just, like, share, comment, so that we can help the algorithm for this channel, Brian Tyler Cohen Español. I'm helping him translate most of his content, English content, to Spanish. I also host my own Spanish podcast, which is called Aranzamendi Podcast Español. So I'm going to be covering this live too on my Spanish channel soon, a little bit later, after we finish with some episodes on the Brian Tyler Cohen Spanish channel. But this is a really bad week and moment for the Trump administration. 3 of his U.S. prosecutors were completely removed: Lindsey Halligan, Alina Habba, and this other guy, Bill Essayli, because they were illegally appointed. James Comey case was dismissed. Letitia James case was dismissed. They're having a rough time. Now look at Pete Hegseth. There's reporting that Donald Trump wants to get rid of Kash Patel. Kash Patel right now is also involved in different scandals around his girlfriend and, misusing and abusing funds and the planes, private flights and, all these things and some other stuff. So a lot is going on. It's just not good for the Trump administration. So that's all I'm going to say. I hope you guys found this content useful. If you did, please just leave a like. If you can subscribe, I'm trying to reach 1,400 subscribers at least today. I was just like 10 away. So if you can subscribe, that would be great. And then I'll catch you guys on a, soon, some other episode. I'm not going to say tonight, probably tomorrow, because this is my second episode here on this English channel today. But I have still a lot of work to do with the Spanish channel, and as I said, with Brian and some personal stuff. So probably I'll be back tomorrow with more information and the developments. Let's see what happens. Remember, Judge Boasberg also ordered, and this is why I'm telling you, it's a really bad week. Judge Boasberg just ordered DHS Kristi Noem to put everybody under oath. This is a lawful, unavoidable court order. They have to put every single person who dealt with the flights that were sent to El Salvador, taking Abrego Garcia, disobeying the judge's orders when he said that you need to turn those planes around. If they're already in the air, you need to turn them around. They never did so. So now everybody in the chain of command. So that may include people in the DOJ, that may include people in the White House, that may include people in DHS. Everybody has to go on the record. He had opened criminal contempt investigation like 2 or 3 months ago. Now he's finally pushing, through. He's going to power through. And he told them, no more games, baby. I'm sorry. It's time to put everybody on the record. Sworn declarations. And that means that some people are going to get criminal referrals, criminal contempt of court referrals very soon. If the judge didn't have that intention, he wouldn't be asking for people to be put on the record by sworn declarations. So I'm telling you, there's so much happening, so much to talk about, but I'm going to leave some for tomorrow. So take care. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys on the next episode.